Hi, I'm Ken Steele, and I'm here in Eduvation's Brand Chemistry Lab to give you a quick primer on the metaphor we use to understand institutional brand strategy and positioning chemistry. Basically, higher education brands are comprised of discrete elements that are fused together to create distinctive formulas or molecules that represent an institutional brand. Over the last 3 decades, I've been building a fairly comprehensive table of those brand elements. I want to give you a quick overview of those and give you a sense of how those can be used in a game-like setting to build consensus on campus between people who might otherwise be squabbling over their individual perspectives and departments or taking issue with particular creative language or visuals. My table of brand elements includes more than 150 different distinct ideas or concepts. Maybe they're tactics, maybe they're programs, maybe they're special qualities of an institution that can become core to the brand for some institutions. They fall into various categories that I've color-coded. The green elements are those that relate to an access mandate. So these are things like affordability in tuition or financial aid, the availability of OER textbooks or of specialized supports for disabilities, for Indigenous students. Maybe it's off-campus housing availability or low entrance requirements. There are a range of these things that reflect an access mandate and that can contribute to a distinctive sense of who an institution is. Then the red color-coded elements are related to career outcomes for students. Everything from the career relevance of programs to the employment rates of graduates, maybe the availability of startup incubators and supports on campus, program advisory committees and various kinds of industry connections or employment placement services, work-integrated learning opportunities, or even grad school placement rates for your undergraduate programs can reflect a kind of career outcome that can be core and compelling to prospective students. The gold elements are those that I'd categorize as related to excellence or prestige. These can include sheer size of an institution, its rankings, the amount of research intensity and research funding, the selectivity of admissions. Maybe it's a premium price on tuition for programs or cutting-edge technology or a commitment to the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. These elements can confer prestige, quality, and excellence on an institutional brand. The purple color-coded elements are related to the student experience, and I've chosen purple because so many institutions known for their student experience seem to use purple as their institutional colors. These are qualities of the setting of the institution, as well as the nature of campus life, athletics, parties, mascots, student support services, and Indigenous reconciliation programs. All of these sort of impact the student experience and can be core. And there are many more, as you can see, everything from religious affiliation to residence life to the availability of beaches or wildlife and dining and clubs. The list goes on and on. The blue color-coded elements relate to learning specifically. So these are about the ways in which education is delivered, active learning, community-based research, community service learning, small class sizes or faculty-student ratios, the resources available in the institution's library, undergraduate research opportunities, VR simulations, various ways in which pedagogical approaches can shape an institution's brand. Also in this category, I'd put things like industry-experienced faculty members or adjuncts. I'd put a focus on teaching and learning and the Center for Teaching and Learning and Supports. And I would even put delivery of programming through the block method. These are aspects of academic delivery and pedagogy that can become part of a brand if they're important enough to the institution and to the prospective student. In pink are the elements that reflect specific programs or disciplines. This may be areas in which an institution is particularly strong for research, where an institution is particularly well known for enrolling students or graduating them. They may be distinctive programs unique to the institution, And frequently, institutions have a combination of these programs that give them distinctiveness. Maybe it's biosciences and medicine. Maybe it's water and environmental science. Maybe it's Arctic and Northern studies or social justice. Many institutions have tried to build brands utilizing 1, 3, or more of these programmatic foci in order to reflect sort of the core of who they are as an institution, to become part of their brand. I definitely recommend institutions consider which programs draw the most students from outside of their local catchment area that can point us to the pinnacle programs for which you are best known or should be best known. I've actually printed a deck of all these 150 cards reflecting all these different brand elements. And when I come to a campus to conduct workshops with academic leadership, boards, alumni associations, students, that card deck becomes core to a gamification that gets stakeholders to think beyond their own personal interests and to start thinking objectively in the abstract about what it is that truly is core to your institution, what is credible to other audiences about your institution, what is compelling to key target audiences, prospective students, donors, government, and others, and what is competitively distinctive. On the back of each card are details about the specific brand element. There's a brief description of what that element means, some examples of potential proof points that would make an institution particularly good at delivering that, some indication of the ways in which it interacts with other brand elements. It may bond with certain things, it may repel other things, and that encourages discussion and thought at the table as participants are attempting to think through which of these elements are most credible and compelling for their own institution. It's a way to get campus stakeholders to forget about their personal interests and to think in the abstract about what it is that is credible, compelling, and competitively distinctive about your institution. What is credible? What do audiences believe is true about your institution? What is compelling to prospective students, to prospective donors, to government, and to other stakeholders? And what is truly distinctive from other institutions? What are you head and shoulders above others at delivering? Typically, I like to group participants in my brand chemistry workshops at tables of 5 to 7 people, give each table a deck of the brand element cards, and then encourage them to divide that deck up and divide and conquer. Run through the list, try to identify the elements that are credible for the institution and set those aside. And then, to get a second set of eyes, pass their piles to the left around the table so that you get a second set of eyes deciding whether or not we've identified all the elements that are truly credible and discarding those that are not. I then get them to set up a quick 2x2 matrix and to start thinking about where they would position brand elements based on the question, what are we currently great at delivering? So yes goes above the line, and no, but maybe we could be great at it goes below the line. So we're trying to identify just how credible these things are for the institution. Then we take a look at the horizontal axis and we say, how competitively distinctive is this? Does anybody else deliver these elements like we do? Yes to the left, and no, these are truly unique to us on the right. So when you're finished, you've positioned your cards on the 2x2 matrix so that in the top right are core elements that we are great at and competitors are not. On the top left are what I'll call neutral elements, where we may be great at, but so are plenty of our competitors. The bottom right are those elements with some potential. If we put more energy into them, maybe they could rise to become core elements. We could be great at them, and it does distinguish us. And in the bottom left, I would say, are those elements that are basically inert when it comes to building a brand for our institution. They're non-starters. They are not competitively distinctive, and they are not particularly credible about our institution either. Now, I recognize that the full table of brand elements is still in development. It's in beta or gamma. It's still developing. There may be a few good suggestions at your table for another core element that haven't been included in the deck. So there are some wild cards specifically for this eventuality. And what you do is you just write on it your own brand element that you want to make part of the discussion. So this can elevate a new idea into the discussion about brand elements that comprise your brand. And after plenty of discussion, often lively discussion and negotiation as cards are moved about on the 2x2 matrix, we bring it to a close. We photograph each table's chart and walk away with a sense of how each group has identified core elements that could be part of your brand on this 2x2 matrix of credible and competitively distinctive. By the end of the brand chemistry workshop, we've effectively distilled the essential core elements of your brand. What is credible? What is competitively distinctive as perceived by multiple stakeholders? And if we conduct these workshops dozens of times, we can collate all of that information and wind up with a pretty clear, almost quantitative view of what are the core elements for the brand strategy going forward. Typically, I go away and do a lot more analysis looking for evidence of what is compelling to core audiences and prioritization before producing a final report in which I clarified the brand chemistry of your key competitors and the most likely core elements for your own brand positioning going forward. What I particularly like about this approach is that it gets us away from identifying a single idea, and it also gets us away from too much focus on brand creative. If you're in marketing, you know that when you bring forward examples of brand creative to an academic audience, the criticisms will run wild. You've got critical thinkers, some of whom consider themselves to be branding experts, who will have a lot of opinions about your choice of typeface and color, your photographs, and your key messages. We don't actually want complete stakeholder input on those things. What we want is to focus them on the abstract level of strategy. What is the core element of your brand? How do we position your institution relative to its competitors? And the brand chemistry workshops are a way to make that happen in a fun way that avoids a lot of the pitfalls of traditional approaches to consulting stakeholders about brand positioning strategies in general. I think it's telling that RBC and the Business Higher Ed Roundtable released a report earlier this year pointing out specifically that the cap on international students and the heightened competition for domestic students means that now more than ever, Canadian higher ed institutions, both colleges and universities, need to do a better job differentiating themselves. If you're at all interested in pursuing this kind of an approach, please just reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk about it further and see whether there isn't a possibility to make this happen on your campus as well. Thanks for your time.